There is something happening in your home every time you walk out the front door. Something your dog registers not with their eyes, not with their ears, but with the most precise biological instrument they possess. You assume they simply wait. You picture them curled on the sofa, time passing in a kind of blissful blankness until your key in the lock brings them back to life. But that is not what is happening. Not even close. Your dog is not waiting in the dark. They are measuring, tracking, reading an invisible clock that your absence winds up the moment you leave. And that clock is not made of seconds or hours. It is made entirely of you, of your scent, your chemical signature, the molecular record of your presence that begins fading from the air the instant the door closes behind you. To understand what your dog is actually doing while you're gone, you have to understand the instrument they're doing it with. A human nose carries somewhere around 5 to 6 million scent receptors. Your dog's nose carries up to 300 million. The part of their brain devoted to analyzing smell is, proportionally, around 40 times larger than the same region in yours. By some estimates, their sense of smell is tens of thousands of times more sensitive than ours. Sensitive enough in the comparison researchers love to use to notice a single spoonful of sugar dissolved in 2 Olympic swimming pools. So when you leave the room, you do not simply vanish from your dog's world. You leave a cloud behind. Dead skin cells, sweat, oils, the warm chemical signature of a body that lived in that space all morning. To you, the room is empty. To your dog, it is still full of you, and slowly, molecule by molecule, emptying. And the way they pull that information out of the air is stranger than most people ever imagine. Your dog's 2 nostrils work independently. Each one samples the air on its own, so a scent that reaches the left side a fraction of a second before the right tells them which direction it drifted in from. They smell in stereo, the way you hear in stereo. They can even smell and breathe at the same time, without one interfering with the other. A fold of tissue inside the nose splits every breath, sending most of the air down to the lungs while diverting a separate stream, around 12% of it, into a dedicated scent-reading chamber that never fully clears. Old scent gathers and lingers there while fresh air keeps pouring in. So your dog isn't taking single snapshots of a smell. They're running a continuous feed, holding what's fading against what's arriving, moment after moment after moment. Here is the part almost no one considers. For a dog, a smell is not a flat present tense fact the way it is for us. A scent has age. It has a slope. When your dog drops their nose to a trail, they can tell which direction you walked, because the footstep you left a minute ago smells stronger than the one you left 10 minutes ago. In a very literal sense, their nose reads time directly off the air. They smell the past. So the fading of your scent inside an empty house is not nothing to them. It's a gradient, a direction, a line moving steadily away from the last moment you were there. And one of the leading ideas among the scientists who study canine cognition, an idea championed by researchers like Alexandra Horowitz, is that a dog may use exactly this fade to sense how long you've been gone. Not by counting, by smelling the distance between now and you. We can't open a dog's mind and prove they're doing this, but we can watch what they do when you come back, and what they do is revealing. At the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, researchers filmed dogs left home alone for 30 minutes, then 2 hours, then 4 hours, and studied the reunions. The dogs who'd been alone longer didn't just seem happier to see their owners. They greeted them measurably more intensely. More movement, more attention, more physical contact, more of everything. The length of the absence registered somewhere inside them. The scientists were careful and honest. Their study couldn't prove the dogs were consciously counting the hours. But something in those dogs clearly felt the difference between a little while and a long while. And here's the detail that matters just as much. Most of them spent the bulk of their time alone simply resting. This isn't a story about an animal pacing in misery for 4 hours. It's a story about an animal holding a quiet, low, constant awareness of your absence, and feeling its weight differently depending on how far that absence has stretched. Because there's a second clock running alongside the one in their nose. Animals, dogs very much included, possess what scientists call interval timing, an internal sense of duration, a built-in feel for how much time has passed. It's the same machinery that puts your dog at the window before the school bus, sitting by their bowl minutes before dinner, lifting their head toward the hallway before you've even consciously decided to get up and leave. Their entire day is shaped by rhythms, light, hunger, habit, the slow turn of their own biology, and your absence is measured against every one of them at once. The longer you're gone, the more anticipation builds inside them. Not panic, not alarm, anticipation. A rising, quiet lean toward the single event their whole system is oriented around, and the more predictable you are, the sharper that clock becomes. A dog whose person leaves and returns on a steady rhythm learns the shape of the day almost to the quarter hour. which is why so many dogs begin their wait, drifting toward the door, in the same narrow window every single afternoon. Break the pattern, come home wildly early or hours late, and you can watch the uncertainty surface in them. The restlessness, the repeated trips to the window, the head lifting at every distant car that isn't yours. They aren't confused about whether you're coming. They've simply lost the one variable that told them when. Ask anyone who has truly lived with a dog, and they'll tell you some version of the same thing. The dog who lifts their head from a dead sleep and walks to the window a few minutes before the car ever turns onto the street. The dog already waiting at the top of the stairs. No sound yet, no sight of you. Just a certain smell fallen below a certain level, a certain stretch of time gone by, and a small body rising to meet what it already knows is coming. Then the door opens. The scent of you floods back to full, and everything that had been quietly thinning in the air all day becomes whole again in a single breath. That isn't magic, it's a nervous system so finely tuned to one specific person that it can feel them approaching before any other sense has confirmed a thing. Which brings us to the moment you walk back through that door. The greeting, the spinning, the whining, the complete reorganization of the room around your arrival, that's the obvious part. But watch what comes after. The long, slow exhale, the press of their body against your leg, the settling. That isn't just leftover excitement burning off. When a dog reunites with the person they're bonded to, their body releases oxytocin, the same bonding hormone that surges through a parent holding their child. Their heart rate eases, the anticipation that had been building all day finally resolves and lets go. And researchers measured this exchange and found something extraordinary. The oxytocin doesn't only rise in the dog, it rises in you too. The two of you close a loop. You walked in, and the chemistry of both your bodies shifted in the very same moment. A quiet biological handshake that neither of you decided to perform. And if you've ever doubted that it is you specifically, your scent, yourself, and no one else's, wired this deeply into your dog, there is an experiment that settles it for good. At Emory University, neuroscientists train dogs to lie perfectly still, awake and unsedated, inside an MRI scanner. Then they presented each dog with 5 different scents. A stranger, a strange dog, a dog they lived with, their own scent, and the scent of their own person, collected on a cloth while that person was nowhere in the building. Only one of those 5 smells lit up the caudate, the brain's reward center, the seat of positive expectation. Not the strangers, not even the familiar dog they shared a home with. You. The smell of you, captured on a piece of gauze, with you completely out of sight, was enough to activate the exact part of your dog's brain that lights up in anticipation of the best thing in their entire world. In a later study, many of those same dogs valued praise from their person as much as food, and a number of them valued it more. To your dog, you are not the source of their dinner. You are the reward itself. So watch your dog the next time you come home after a long day. Not the first 10 seconds. Those belong to the performance of reunion, the noise and the spinning. Watch what happens a minute later. Where do they settle? How close do they choose to be? Do they press against you? Do they exhale, fully, completely, the way you breathe out when you finally set down something heavy you've been carrying all day? That stillness is the end of the measurement. The scent in the room is back to full. The interval has closed. Both clocks, the one written in your molecules and the one ticking quietly in their brain, have reset to 0 in the very same instant. And every part of them, right down to the chemistry of their blood, is telling them that the one question hanging in the air all day has finally been answered. You came back. You always come back. And to the single creature on earth built to feel your absence like a slow leak in the air, that is everything.